Okay, guys, so we're just moving on to our next screen. Again, thank you for the question, Johan. Really appreciate it. What we'll do is at the end, those people who are joining or have missed the information, I will be taking questions at the end related to this presentation and obviously the national structure in terms of what that looks like. But if there's anything outside similar to Johan who's got some burning questions or desires, I will sort of leave my email address, contact details on there, and hopefully we can help you out to answer your questions. So moving on to batting now. So what does batting profiling look like at the top level? Obviously, multi-dimensional against spin and pace. We have to be more productive against playing against spin and pace. And what does that look like? Can we rotate strike? Have we got the ability to hit out the park against both? Do we just favor one or the other? For my understanding and what I've seen so far is that we have a really good play against seam because we face a lot of it and it goes out the park more quickly and often. But against good spinners, we often find that players get stuck. So from a batting perspective, if this is part of your learning over the next 6 months or your winter program, or you're a coach and looking to develop good players for the national structure, can we make sure that we try and look at the development phases against spin and pace to look to rotate? Can we sweep well? Can we hit over the top? Can we nudge and nurdle, and can we find gaps against spinners and seamers? Can we hit boundaries on demand? Can we punish the bad ball? All these aspects of being a multi-dimensional player is what we're looking at, which fits in nicely with the player who plays 360 and has got all the shots. If we're going to be effective at the top end of the game in order to move up the rankings, win more games, we have to be able to play both sides of the wicket rotationally, in front of the stumps and behind the stumps as well. And that's easier, that's not as easy said as done. But if we're practicing our intent, but from an earlier age, by the time they get to our development squads and into our national program, it's not a shock to play 360. What we often see is some players favor the leg side, some players just favor the offside, but we don't combine it together. So this is an area that we need to get, look to develop our batting unit with. So one of the big areas for me is, from a profiling perspective, from a batter, is they must have the ability to play in different roles for the team. So if you're wanting to be a national player, it's not just I've opened all my life in such a club. I can only play as an opener, which I constantly hear all the time, unfortunately, because that only limits you to two places, 1 and 2. So what I'm trying to get to is where we can have multiple different players who are resourceful to play in multiple different positions in the team. So it just provides more competition. It gets our players playing more effectively, but also being more versatile in terms of our batting. And one example of this would be, if you look at the current England squad, they bat all the way down to 11. And they can move players in and out in different places. If Stokes drops down, if he comes up, people can fill the gap, and various different roles are manipulated in order to suit the dynamics of the game. So even the bowlers, this goes out to the bowlers, especially the tailenders, we need to be more versatile to play that particular role in the team. I mentioned it before, has the ability to clear boundaries. We don't do that enough, unfortunately, and if we do, we're happy doing it on grounds in Sweden. But actually, when we get to big tournaments, what happens is 80-yard boundaries, 90-yard boundaries, 60-yard boundaries, even 55, 70-yard boundaries becomes a real struggle for us, because we want to get better at hitting bigger boundaries. So if in your training environment, don't just practice for the ground that you're on, maybe 10, 15 yards more. See if you can practice hitting out the ground against 70-yard boundaries. It's not easy, but we have to try and train our mind to see who can hit further than just being happy hitting 45, 50-yard boundaries. Again, I mentioned having the ability to win games from losing positions. I think that speaks volumes for itself. Strike rates of 180 plus. Ideally, if you can get to 200s, that's even better. What I hear is a lot of players saying, "Oh, I got a 30 or 150 balls, and I should be playing for the national team." Well, actually, no, you shouldn't. What you should be doing is playing the long format of the game. But you know, as we all know, the long format of the game is not played. You know, for the national team at the moment, it's the shorter format. So the skills are there, but the format might not be. So we want to make sure that our players are performing effectively with their strike rate, even for the girls, even for the under 19. So this is an area where we want more intense, dynamic individual players who've got power to strike from the top, in the middle, and at the end. And then obviously from a batting perspective, we want to get away from the philosophy that only a batter, you're just a batter in the team. That's the only discipline that you do. Nowadays, we're trying to get our batters to be excellent fielders, also being wicket keepers, also being, you know, all good all rounders and bowlers, contributing with the ball. If you're not doing it with the bat, go and do it with the ball. If you're not going to do it in the ball, save 40 runs in the field. You know, if you're not going to be that, be the best keeper in the world. So these are the areas. It can't just be dependent on just batting. It has to be something else that has to be in that forefront. And you know, there's a lot of players in Sweden that I've been seeing on my travels who only really do one discipline. And you know, don't perform the second discipline effectively enough. So this is an area, again, when I'm profiling, I would be looking at what contributions you can do other than just your batting.